Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very special and slightly unusually scheduled Wednesday edition of the MakerDAO community call. We are in the throes of DevCon 4 right now, so attendance is going to be spotty. Planning is going to be minimal, and conversations are going to be a little spacey if I'm leading them. Not a lot of sleep happens at DevCon. 14-hour shifts at the booth is taking its toll on me. So I'm not going to go over community events today. We're going to do a huge recap post DevCon to talk about all the interesting things that have happened. That's going to take up a while, or a block of time for sure. So what I wanted to talk about today, though, is a pretty significant event in the MakerDAO ecosystem. We've released a new interface for the CDP engine called the CDP Portal. We have one of the key team members responsible for sort of the look and feel and the way that thing developed for the community on the call today. His name is Chris Bradbury. Chris, can you actually tell us what your title is? Because embarrassingly, I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm one of the product coordinators, product managers here at Maker.
Yeah, so responsible for whether it's good or bad. So if you have any complaints or questions, this is the guy to talk to. All right. So Chris, I'm going to hand it off to you directly, and I'll let you kind of describe what the tool is all about, and then feel free to jump into a presentation whenever you like.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. So yeah, as Rich said, we've released our new CDP portal this week at cdp.makerdao.com. Ultimately, it's a new version of the DAI dashboard, really, for interacting with and managing your CDPs. It has got a little bit less functionality than the DAI dashboard in the sense that it's simply just to manage and interact with your own CDPs. So you can't bite CDPs which you don't own, for instance, or anything like that. And we are linking off to Maker.tools for some of the global like CDP coverage out there. One of the big things we've really spent time on working the CDP portal on is trying to make it one of the best user experiences we can for the user. The reason we've launched this for single collateral DAI is actually so we can release the best version possible for multi-collateral DAI when that comes out. So this is kind of our first iteration and test version, really focusing on user experience, but we really want to hear like a ton of feedback, what you like, what you don't like, what you think works, what you think doesn't work, and so forth. As I said, it's simply just for managing your own CDPs, but we've expanded functionality to be able to allow you to use like Ledger and Trezor. So you can now like open your CDPs and keep them on your hardware wallets. One of the big things, though, really is the proxy contracts that we've deployed with the CDP portal. So instead of, I think it was about 8 clicks to open a CDP on your on the DAI dashboard, it's now 3 if you include the terms and conditions, or 2 if you just think about the buttons you can actually press, right? So it's a great thing. We've got atomic transactions in there. You just create this proxy contract, which actually owns your CDP, but it's on your wallet. So you still have full control and full ownership of the CDP. Just
Actually,
this.
can I jump in and start asking some questions? Because maybe you're going to get to this in a bit. Well, actually, tell me if you are. Are you going to talk about proxies in detail later, or do you want to talk about them now a bit?
I'm probably not able to talk to you in too much detail about the actual physical proxy contracts.
Sure. Well, we don't need to get into the specific details, but it does change the landscape a bit. It changes how CDPs are owned and how they're transmitted from one account to another. And it also opens the door to functionality in the future that we could potentially introduce. Did you guys have any plans about how you wanted to leverage proxies later on, or is it still working?
Yeah, there is certainly a lot of work going on around our proxy for multi-collateral DAI. One of the big things for multi-collateral DAI is you only ever have one CDP, and all your collateral types will be in each, will just be in that CDP, right? So, and again, that will all be wrapped up within the proxy. So you will own that proxy contract, and obviously your CDP just sits inside that. And everything going forward for multi-collateral DAI is within the CDP landscape is focused on using that proxy contract, particularly in the CDP portal. We've taken the decision to only allow interaction through the proxy because we think it enhances user experience to a point where it doesn't make sense to allow the user to do that 8 steps
It raises some interesting questions about proxy ownership, though. Where in a previous model, somebody could transfer the ownership of a CDP from one account to the other.
Yeah.
How do people do that now with proxies?
So the functionality is possible. The transfer CDP functionality that's on the dashboard, unfortunately, it's been disabled at the moment, just for legal reasons at the moment, and we're just trying to get over that hurdle. So the functionality to transfer a CDP is there and it works, but for legal reasons, we've had to remove the button at the moment. So yeah, I did try and get an answer for it because I suspected that would come up today. So I'm still waiting back, unfortunately. But as soon as we have an answer back for that, hopefully it'll be one of two things. It'll be straight away we can enable that functionality, or two, I'll give an update on the general channel and just explain when we can maybe expect to see that coming up. Okay,
cool. Speaking of general channel, you mentioned that you wanted to collect some feedback about the new system. How did you want to do that?
Yeah, so we've got a new channel now called Product Feedback. That's where we ideally want people to drop their feedback on any of the Maker products we do. So any of the products that we've got a UI for ultimately that you're interacting with, or even the command line tools as well. So it should be enabled now for everyone who now joins Socket Chat to automatically be added to it. But if you haven't joined it yet, you should be able to find it. There is a link in the blog post as well. Just product feedback. I'll drop it in a second, the actual link. But yeah, that's where we want to hear all the feedback, really. And myself and Jordan, who's obviously our UX researcher, who I think you've had on these calls before, we're gonna monitor that channel, and we're gonna take all of that feedback in, and it's gonna help us prioritize our backlog at the end of the day. If everybody has the same points, then they're the things that are going to get prioritized on it. If people have got new ideas, we're gonna take some of these things in, because we're acutely aware that we live and breathe this stuff every single day, right? So we have a very particular view on how the system works and how it operates and how it should be used. But for those people that maybe check it once a day or once a week or maybe even once a month because they've got such a highly collateralized CDP, they're the ones that some functionality might not be super clear to, or might have questions about why we show something and don't show something else, or they would just like a button to do something. So they're the things we want to hear. And yeah, please feel free. Even things you don't like they're probably the things you don't like are the things we want to hear most. Things that you love, we're not too interested about, right? it's constructive feedback that we'd really love to hear. So
that sounds good.
Yeah, cool. So shall I jump in and show you what it looks like?
let's do a screen share, because I think that well, we don't have a ton of people here, but I'm probably going to pepper you with questions about design decisions as we go through.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you see that okay?
Yep.
Cool. So I'm just going to start off with one really where we haven't got CDP open. And we're just going to do it on Koban for now, so things happen nice and quickly. But this is the screen once you've connected to one of the three wallets on the side. So we're just connected to MetaMask at the moment. What you see, so you haven't got any CDPs. You can see compared to the dashboard, it's a very basic overview. You've got some price info and a couple of options to unlock some of the token allowances, but nothing like you had before. So let's just jump straight in. We're going to open CDP, we'll collateralize, deposit like 0.1 ETH. And in here we can see the maximum DAI we'll generate is 14, but we'll play it safe. Just
if they did 14, what would their collateralization ratio be?
So once we go under 200%, so this one would be 154 if we did 14, and you're going to get a warning here. We have built it so.
What if you did 14.445? What would that do? Oh,
so yeah, if you go above the value, it won't allow you to open a CDP. So we've
how close can people cut it though? If you just pasted it 14.445, is that exactly 150? Yeah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so that's technically 100.001, but so there we go. So if you go above that, you can pretty much go right to the throw limit. So, but you'll see a warning on anything below a 200% thing. So all the way up to 200%, you're gonna get that.
Okay.
Right. So it's there. So we'll do 10.5 for now. We'll collateralize. Next screen is simply just the steps it's going to do. So these were all the steps you had to do individually before to open a CDP. So you had to accept for the creation of your proxy. You had to create a CDP, you had to wrap your ETH to WETH, convert your WETH to PETH, actually lock the PETH, then generate your DAI, and then the DAI be transferred to your wallet in the previous one. But now, well, this is new for the proxy contract, right? But now we're just going to do all of that in a single transaction, and accept the T's and C's, and we're going to create that. Create that CDP. We've got a nice little animation here. Hopefully that should be nice and quick. Give one Kovan.
So obviously there's a lot of benefits of having the proxies all wrap everything up and for the user experience.
Yeah.
How do the transaction fees even out? Is it basically the same, or is there a bigger hit at the beginning?
I think there is a very tiny increase in the gas cost, as there is a step to deploy the proxy contract and then transfer the DAI to your wallet. But it's very, very small when we did the maths and did the test against effectively through the DAI dashboard and then on here. So it is.
Sorry, and then the default gas fee is whatever you select in MetaMask, and that's transferred into all the other following transactions?
Yeah. So it will, I think we use the ETH gas station to get calculate the standard gas fee, and we're just using that every time.
Okay, cool.
So that's it. So that's our CDP created now. So we've got up here the 0.1 ETH that we've deposited. We've got the details about our CDP up here, the current price information, for instance, the liquidation penalty. So all the information that you're used to seeing ultimately. And then we've got the 4 primary actions for the user. So these are the 4 things in slightly more user-friendly terms as well, compared to the DAI dashboard. So we've got deposit, withdraw, payback, and generate. And we've got close CDP.
I just noticed that I'm looking at the naming convention here because I know that I've seen this a few times, but you never actually look at something until it's on the internet officially, and it all looks different. So you have one box called ETH collateral, which is fairly straightforward, but the other one you call it a DAI position, which that's kind of a new way, at least personally, of looking at things. Why did you guys just decide to call it position in DAI?
Do you know what? That's also the first time I've actually noticed we use those 2 different words as well.
Right.
And that's actually something I can't tell you.
Okay.
But yeah, it's something I'm going to look into. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be guessing if I said.
Sure.
But as we talked about before, there was a transferred CDP option that we had, which would normally be up here. And hopefully that's going to come back real soon. The other thing we've got is the CDP history down here, which is just every time you take an action in your CDP, it's going to tell you in your history. So it's super clear. If you ever see a transaction you don't recognize, for instance, then it's something you can go and investigate if you don't quite understand.
Sure. Let's slow down a bit because there's things happening on this page that we haven't talked about here. In the CDP history, obviously, I'm assuming you're linking to eScan?
Yeah.
eScan?
So
And what is sender and transaction hash? What are those linked to?
So the transaction hash is linked
to
it's
back to Etherscan as well. Okay.
So yeah.
All right.
And the sender is simply Etherscan as well, but from the address it was sent from.
Sure.
Cool. So the other thing then, let's try and remember which account it was on. I think it was Hot Wallet. Here we go. So this is then something else that we've got, right? So if you've created a CDP in the DAI dashboard, an old one, and you now want to use it in the new CDP portal, obviously the DAI dashboard that we had was not using the proxy contract. It was just deployed and held in your wallet. And this one obviously is using the proxy contract. So there is a step to move it into the CDP portal in order for you to manage it, like here. So if you have created one in the DAI dashboard, this is what you're going to see when you come to the CDP portal. I've already got another CDP open, but if you haven't actually opened another CDP, you'll just see the welcome screen and this header. If for any reason you close it here, you've still got the link on the left-hand side where you can migrate CDPs.
Sure. Can we go back to that warning message that it had? I was kind of curious what it said, or is it gone now?
Yeah, unfortunately that's gone now. But it ultimately just says that you've got a CDP, you create a CDP in the DAI dashboard, and in order to be able to access it here, you need to migrate it into the new proxy.
And this is a one-way operation, I'm assuming.
This is a one-way operation, and I think it's really important to know that once you do migrate it to the proxy, you will lose access to it in the DAI dashboard. So it's not a case of being able to make it available in the CDP portal and still able to manage it in the DAI dashboard. It's you have to make the decision to move it in.
I like to play the devil's advocate sometimes in these meetings, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it. So I'm assuming that you guys have tested multiple CDP migrations and everything has gone off without a hitch, and it's absolutely like we wouldn't have released it, obviously, but I think that there might be some reticence for people thinking that I'm going to be the first one to migrate. Yeah, Kenny Rose there. And if I have to admit, I haven't migrated mine yet. So has the process been fairly smooth so far? Any complaints, any issues or hiccups with people migrating?
Yeah, look, we have had a couple of issues, which we're looking at. I think particularly with people with, I think, the Ledger account. What we're trying to understand there is whether we know one of them at least was, I think, using an older firmware on their Ledger. And that's something very, very difficult for us to test and kind of support backwards compatibility with on all the different versions of that.
I've run into that same issue where I've been trying to debug problems with users, and they've finally revealed that they never updated the firmware on their ledgers because they're afraid to. And trying to explain to people that not updating the firmware on your ledger is worse than running the gamble. Worst case, you just you have your seed phrase, just update it, man. But, oh well.
Yeah.
All right.
And I mean that's something that up to the users, right? Because I know some people don't like to update their firmware if they're not completely comfortable with it and unsure what the firmware update is doing. So, I mean, we've heavily tested it, and we've seen and heard from people that have migrated their CDPs over absolutely fine. We've done some live testing as well this morning to make sure there was no other issues with it when we started to hear some of the problems about it. We did have one that was simply down to a node becoming slightly out of sync. So somebody moved their CDP over, and it seemed to get lost, but the transaction just hadn't appeared on the synced node. So that was resynced again, and it appeared.
Well, Joel just piped up in the chat saying that he just successfully. What, Kenny? You just did it live right now in the call?
No, I did it yesterday, but when I did it, I canceled it 3 times because I was like, do I really want to give this to a proxy contract?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a bit of a leap that has to happen there. I'm assuming, Kenny, that you read that proxy contract start to finish and validated it yourself?
Well, I was there when it was being designed and drafted in the first place. So yeah.
All right, well then.
So I did have some comfort with it, and but even still, right? It's like you think if you're an existing CDP holder, you have to think about a value proposition here. Is the value that I'm getting from this new dashboard and being able to click one thing instead of 2 things worth the migration?
Yeah, I agree. And that's one of the things I wanted to touch on, or I think we touched on a second or before you jumped in, is what kind of feature sets are we going to present to people down the road? It was kind of a curveball to throw at Chris, and I apologize, but we do have plans. And I think that there's this growing recognition in the space that proxy contracts, they open us up to this wide range of smart wallet type functionalities that maybe we haven't done a great job of putting in front of people for this initial migration. I think it would help maybe if we talked about all the awesome things that this is going to allow people to do later as well. But
it saves money too, doesn't it, on gas costs?
Yeah, I think that's marginal at this point, I think. Well, actually, Kenny, you might know better than both Chris and I. Does it? Are you asking us, or are you telling us that it's?
Well, it does, but it depends, right? So if you're it just depends on the opcode and the gas and whatever else.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a wash at this point, but yeah, there's a longer conversation to be had about the pros and cons of smart wallets and how abstracting feature sets away from specific addresses and putting them in a proxy somewhere. It's a long, complicated conversation. Maybe we shouldn't have it today. So.
Yeah, from what I understand, it does save money further down the line, just not on the initial creation. So when you actually have to deploy your contract is where that tiny little bit of extra fee comes in.
Okay, right on. Kenny, I'm glad that you showed up, because I really want to get your impression of what you think, because I guess you just kind of revealed information I wasn't aware of. Were you involved with the development process with this, or you just had to put people around the proxies?
With the portal or the proxy? The proxy?
The portal.
No, not the portal. Just the.
Okay.
I mean, DS proxy has been around for a long time. That's all.
Yeah. We've seen some interesting things on. There was a recent article written about DEXs in our space, and they had some great information about how fantastically popular DS proxy is. Like, there's a lot of projects using that code right now. It's getting called a lot. Yeah. I'll send you a link later if you're interested. Okay, so
no, this is the first time I'm seeing it, but it looks, well, obviously it looks fantastic, right? It looks really slick. There's a lot of great information here. Everything you'd want to know to manage your what you're doing. Clear information. One thing, what was the other thing that so the CDP history, I don't think I had to for any reason. I haven't yet had any reason to sort of need to download transaction history, let's say for tax reasons or anything like that. But I could see how that might be something useful further down the road, or just other integrations with things like any other popular tax software.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's been one of my wish list items for a long time, and I think that I won't speak for Chris, but I'm reasonably sure they bumped my request for good reasons, I guess.
Probably.
No, I mean, that's something I like. I've not seen it's been on there yet about downloading it, so that's definitely something we can talk about and see if it's like a mass market request, really, and it's something that everybody is keen for.
It's interesting. I think that we might see the secondary market pick up some of this stuff for us, because there's already a site, Delta Trades, Delta Monitor, something that allows you to pull out your trade history from Oasis DEX or a bunch of different DEXs. So possibly somebody in the ecosystem will come up with a way to pull all of our activities out of a CDP and allow us to export it. But there needs to be, I think one of the bottlenecks here, and this reminds me of a conversation I had with the Oasis DEX people, is that there's no clear standard of what kind of a CSV they're supposed to be, or a JSON object they're supposed to be spitting out, and until somebody comes up with that, it's a pain in the ass, I think, is the response.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question about what that CV, if it would be a CSV, what it would even look like if we did that. But I think it's important that you kind of touched on that there a little bit as well. But like, we want to make really great products to support like the smart contracts and stuff we write here. But we also still want to encourage the community to still build on top of the Maker system, right, and the DAI credit system. So one of the things we might do is just focus on simply managing and interacting with the CDP, and that being the one thing we try and do really, really well. And then some of the supporting like features around that could be things that the community do as well. So I don't think it's something we want to try and like stop everybody making any add-ons to the CDP functionality, and we don't want to like kind of destroy everybody else in that sense. We want to help and support them make great tools as well.
That's a conversation we've been having more and more, and kind of trying to reinforce that message, is that MakerDAO is generally in the business of creating financial primitives and smart contracts and an ecosystem and supporting that ecosystem. But the tools that we release are more reference implementations or bootstrapping implementations, with the hope that it inspires the community to do an even better job. And we have to think about some things about how we're going to incentivize that, because it's tough for the community to compete with free, which is what we're releasing right now. So we need to come up with some strategies about how to make it a more of attractive playground for people to start building from.
Yeah, and that's one of the challenges I have here, right, as it's a rolling product, because I want to make products that are usable by the average Joe on the street, ideally. Like, that's kind of one of the goals, and that's the goal of this CDP portal, really, is to make it super clear and super easy for anyone coming across Maker and the CDP system for the first time, quite clear to understand and how to use. But then that challenge, like you said, is to how do we then keep it so the ecosystem can still build great things as well. But that hopefully is going to be an enjoyable journey to have.
All right, so we kind of jumped around on a few tangents. Do you want to go back to the tour and see if we got
yeah, so let's just migrate the CDP over. So we've got 300 DAI in there at the moment. It's currently at risk, which is probably a bad thing, but let's just migrate this over. Simply confirm the migration on the right-hand side. Once you click it, it does again give you a warning that it will no longer be accessible in the old dashboard. So it's going to migrate. It's going to confirm that transaction. Waiting across the fingers and hopefully this works.
What does it look like if you've migrated multiple CDPs to the same proxy?
So hopefully you're going to see
an example here,
because we already had a CDP set up. So now this is what it looks like on the left-hand side now. So we're just going to turn to CDP Portal. So now we have these two separate CDPs.
And they're kind of, you can't break them back out again, right? Like this is now a package of CDPs because they're attached to the same proxy?
Yeah. So there is no way for me now to move this back out and put it back into the DAI dashboard.
Are there any plans to merge CDPs?
So I don't think so for single collateral DAI, just because multi-collateral DAI is like so close on the horizon, right? So in multi-collateral DAI, I touched on it before, you're only going to have one CDP within multi-collateral DAI, which is going to have all your multiple collateral types within it.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's something I've been wrestling with. People have talked or debated a few times in the subreddit about the pros and cons of having multiple CDPs and what kind of it gets into the weeds on balancing different types of risk. Yeah, I'm not a risk person, so it was not very compelling to me. But I was just wondering if that was a migrator or merger or something.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, I don't personally see or understand the need to have multiple CDPs at the moment. In that sense, like you said, it's that from that risk side, it's maybe someone else on the call has
Kenny, do you have any insight into why somebody would do that? Have you been a part of those conversations where people are debating the pros and cons of multiple CDPs with different risk parameters or risk associated?
So was that multiple CDPs within what?
Multiple CDPs with different risk or different collateralization ratios.
Well, why would you might want to do that?
Yeah. I just wanted to know if you've stumbled on the same conversations that I have. It gets fairly esoteric. Risk management strategies start to pop up that I'm not entirely convinced are valid. I was just wondering if you'd stumbled on those same conversations in the past.
No, the only thing I thought of in terms of what people might want to do with CDPs, it's not so interesting with single collateral, but multi-collateral, where you could bundle them together and make a higher level asset or derivative or something like that.
Yeah, there's going to be some interesting possibilities if we ever open up, or if somebody in the aftermarket ever builds something for us that I've been waiting for, is sort of like a CDP insurance mechanism where somebody could rescue a CDP and take ownership of it and eventually sell it back for during a certain time period. There's a lot of schemes for CDP insuring and rescuing, which we've been tossing around. And that also leads to some questions about complex ownership of CDPs, which haven't quite been hammered out completely. But if they do get answered, then it opens up the door to something interesting, which is a CDP marketplace, where somebody could potentially start buying up a couple CDPs and then bring them back to the portal and then merge them all together or combine them all into their multi-collateral position.
Right. And once you start tokenizing, all the things, then you really start getting a market that's very interesting.
Yeah, that's going to happen any day now. I can feel it.
Just waiting.
It's going to be so good. All right. Okay, sorry. Back to you, Chris.
No, this is great. So I guess really the final big function we've got really that's kind of new on the CDP portal then to demonstrate is one of the payback functions we've got. So we've got the option now to effectively just pay back. You can pay back in stability fee in. Oh, I'm going to lie there because I think, again, from a legal point of view, we have to change something. But we have something coming up hopefully real soon where we're going to allow people to pay back, pay the stability fee in DAI. which is really cool.
All right. Well, I don't put you on the spot, but do we have functionality on the site right now that allows people to do something, but then legally stops them from doing it? Is that what just happened?
We have a couple of things, that we have some legal issues or legal clarification to get over.
All right. So you can't pay back with DAI right now. Is that the?
No, that's something that's again hopefully coming out really, really soon.
Okay.
I've forgotten that been taken off. It was a very, very last minute thing. But what we're looking to do is effectively allow you to pay your stability fee in DAI. So at the moment you can only pay it in MKR, and allow you to pay it back in DAI, and it effectively just converts it to MKR.
So how do we pay back in MKR here then? What button do you click on to do
that? So at the moment it's automatically paid back in MKR, but I don't have any MKR in this wallet at the moment.
Oh, so you don't have any MKR, and that's why it only just shows you a payback DAI.
So I pay back. So I'm paying back some DAI. So I'd be paying back.
Oh, I see what's happening. So I didn't scroll down for it. Okay.
Yeah, and it would calculate my stability fee, or
yep.
It's so tiny at the moment.
Okay.
But yeah, so one of the other things, hopefully, again, coming soon, the features on there, we just need to re-enable it. Is the ability to pay the stability fee in DAI, which should hopefully be really useful for somebody paying back a little bit of their DAI position that we've got here.
What we lose in perfect tech demos, we make up for in radical transparency. So it's a wash in the end. So.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
But that's compared to DAI dashboards and this one, that's it really. So if anyone has any questions or comments or feedback, great to discuss them.
How come shouldn't all of your approvals be set to yes if you've generated a proxy? Why are those set to
so there are still ones that you can generate ads. So these aren't by default approved, and you can still unlock them if you want to send DAI from here or MKR.
Did we see all the pages that are in it? Yeah, I guess it's a fairly simple UI, right?
Unless you want to see the terms of service, but
no, I do not.
It is, like I said, it's a simple UI. We try to make it as simple as possible and intuitive as possible.
That's interesting. So it raises another point, though, because no matter what you do, you're going to make somebody upset, right? So people are going to say, well, I like switch number 7 on the old portal, and I demand that you return that to us immediately. So are you guys going to wait for the aftermarket to sort of build these things? Because I know people have been asking or mentioned that, I don't know, I saw it in some chat room somewhere where somebody said that they used to like watching or scrolling through CDPs looking for risky positions and just kind of getting a sense of what the system was up to. And we've removed that ability in this dashboard. Is that something that's going to be on a phase 2 for the CDP portal, or is the expectation that if the community wants it, then they should build it and we'll help them out?
I think it's a mixture of both at the moment. So what we do when we're on the mainnet version, there is a link just down here. Should we switch to show you where it takes us? And there, so we have a link down here called See All CDPs, which we can go to, and it simply takes us to Maker.tools, which I think everyone has probably seen. And it automatically filters to the CDPs which are funded. Here we go. And the reason we filter to Maker.tools and not back to the original DAI dashboard is there's some functionality on here which I think is more useful with the ability to sort, for instance, so we can sort by the ratios on here, so we can see what majority of people are doing, what the highest ratios of people are choosing are. We can go down to the most risky ratios and so forth. So
maybe that's an interesting feature set for Mike to add to the Maker tools, where he could just add a little bite button somewhere in there, and then people could use this to troll for people whose dreams they want to ruin.
Yeah. I mean, I've already seen a couple of comments in the channels already about maybe an advanced tab. So people who want to see it, they can choose an advanced options, which is obviously quite common these days on web apps when you try and make it as simple as possible for the majority of users, but for that subset of users that want the advanced options, they can see these advanced details and tools. But again, we're also on the hand that we already have a perfectly good tool, for instance, here, which shows this information and does the filtering. So whether we want to put that in, or whether we want to put it into our own kind of current design system and build it into the same tool, it's kind of an open question at the moment.
Well, there's pros and cons. It creates a dependency on a property that we don't control, though. So there's some downsides there. Like if MakerTools goes away, then that feature set goes away. Right?
Exactly, yeah. And I'm sure the community as well don't want MCD to be delayed delayed because we're building a feature that's actually available somewhere else, right? So,
so you're holding that above our heads.
It's
every feature we request is going to delay multi-collateral. Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, if it's an absolute must be in for multi-collateral, it's one of those things. We have a long list of things that we need to do before we release multi-collateral on the UI side, including some updates to the governance portal for governance dashboard for the next set of votes we're hosting. We've also got a small redesign already in the pipeline for the multi-collateral version, where the onboarding is going to be slightly different, and how you can add new collateral types ongoing with that, which is really exciting.
So it is with the existing portal then, because we're close to multi-collateral data, we can't obviously make any promises, but soon, definitely soon.tm. Is this going to be the version of the CDP portal that we're using, or do you guys have anything else in the pipeline? Any tweaks or fixes you want to add to the existing one?
So I think this one is going to take us up to multi-collateral DAI, okay, for single collateral DAI. This one will remain live for the period that single collateral DAI continues as well.
Oh, I see.
So until we do global settlement, we're actually going to have two versions of the CDP portal running side by side. So there'll be this version and the MCD CDP portal running.
Three of them, because presumably we have to keep the DAI.MakerDAO going for anybody that doesn't mind.
And we'll keep that one going as well. Yeah. So for that, yeah, I think we're talking 6 months at the moment, maybe 6 to 9 months, keeping single collateral DAI live. Of course, it's going to be a two-way redeemer for DAI as well. So you're still going to be able to move from single collateral DAI to multi-collateral DAI and back to single collateral DAI. You're obviously going to have to, or be able to migrate your CDP from single collateral DAI to multi-collateral DAI CDP. So that's something that's going to be in the new CDP portal, which obviously we haven't got in here, but it's probably not going to be a million miles away from the migration screen that we're using on here. But yeah, we're just going to take in some learnings that we've got when we built this version and done our first round of user testing. We weren't able to put everything into this version to build. Otherwise, it would almost never go out. So
I want to ask. Sorry, go ahead.
No, carry on.
Joel Austin, as usual, has an excellent question that I want to get to in a second. But it's worth pointing out the first DAI dashboard obviously was written by developers with very little product oversight, which is cool. It got us here, and that's good enough. Like, congratulations to those guys that built that interface. But things happen very differently on this iteration or this app, because I shouldn't say because I had nothing to do with it, but you guys had usability testing. You went through QA testing. You guys did a lot of like normal grown-up software development type stuff for this, right? So, what was that process like? Did it work out well? Are you guys going to continue to do it?
Yeah. So yeah, I think it worked out really well. We are still doing it, so we're doing it on effectively a multiple number of work streams at the moment. Yeah. So we've got a lot of feedback going on from the first governance vote we had for the foundation principles. We've got another design for the next set of votes we've got coming up. We've also got executive voting coming up for that voting dashboard soon. So we've got a number of tests going on in the new designs for that. We had a number
actually, yeah, that reminds me, because that's another really cool grown-up type thing that we're doing now. Is I saw in one of the chat channels that you guys have automated testing going on, right? Like there's bots testing all the commits, right? Yeah, that's very
yes, we've got a number of end-to-end tests now running. Which hopefully it gets rid of some of the errors we've got or would have had if we didn't have that in. So great new addition. But yeah, the user testing is great. So the design team now, we have a very nice flow where we effectively have the user requirements brought out. Design takes them and does some basic wireframes and prototyping. We then do some user kind of feedback sessions and user testing to make sure we're kind of on the right track. We'll then create full like high fidelity designs. We'll then do some kind of first early versions, building it. We'll then again do some user testing where someone can actually play around with it, clicking buttons with their actual wallets. We'll get any feedback from that, and if it's realistic to put it in straight away, it will go in straight away. If not, it's something that goes on the backlog to say at some point we need to fix X. And obviously we're trying to run, like, I think it's 4 UI products concurrently at the moment. So we've obviously got savings die coming out for the multi-collateral die launch as well. So we're doing some user testing for that very shortly. So yeah, we've got lots of things all going on at once. But you know what? Every time we do some testing for one product, it really helps us learn about the other, like, 3 or 4 products we have as well, because often it's the same comments and the same things that go into all of them.
Yeah, it's fascinating working in a field where, like, I can watch it from a distance and appreciate it without having to do any of the work. But watching people come up with new UIs or new paradigms, or UI paradigms, sorry, is what I'm trying to say, that hadn't previously existed. Like, there's not a lot of prior art here, so I can see you guys making up names for things that didn't have a name previously, which is really cool. So you don't often get to be in that position in IT. I'm going to jump into Joel's question before we get too close to the end of the call. So Joel asks, is there any easy, quote unquote, way to interact with the CDP proxy contract if the hosting for the portal goes down? Like, so are people going to be able to interact with the contracts somehow? Is this documented? Can they use command line tools to deal with their CDPs now?
So I'm pretty sure you can use the command line tools to interact with all this stuff. Again, it's 3DS proxy. Which has been around quite a while.
Well, then maybe Kenny can fill us in, because Kenny, are you familiar with the tool sets? So, like, is DAP Hub releasing tools that allow people to interact with this?
I think, well, they'll probably, if there's not one specifically to, I think, no, there definitely is one specific to CDPs and so that would be one of those DAP things. But you can also use, like, Seth, which is just a general purpose. Yeah. But that one is a little bit more complicated. So I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure there is one DAP Hub built. So it's just like, let's just say it's called CDP, and then you just give it whatever arguments. But you're going to have to know, or generally know, the API for it on some of these things. Mm-hmm. Documentation on some of those command line tools isn't like fully fleshed out, or at least it wasn't the last time I checked. But
yeah, that happens with documentation. But I think that thanks for that recap, Joel and Kenny. So I think that maybe we'll prioritize maybe a blog post or maybe a Reddit post of, like, here's what happens if the web interface ever goes away. Because I think there's some people that have dug up old text files of how they could rescue things in the previous iteration of the CDPs.
Yeah,
you can also host it locally. Like, you don't need, like, it doesn't need a web server, which is fantastic, right?
Yeah, we were actually kind of keen about that, and I think that I lost momentum on that. But we were talking about how it's easy to package up and it's easy to deploy locally, and maybe we should think about IPFS, and maybe we should think about maybe a Muon wrapper or something. We can just get these things running as a desktop app if we had to. There's lots of options there.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we have got coming is that the goal for all of our products going forward is we're building everything through the die.js library, the SDK library that we have that's released, and I think quite a few people are already playing around with. So I'm not totally sure if all the functionality of this CDP portal is in the SDK toolkit that we've got at the moment, but I know quite a lot of it is in there. So hopefully very soon the entire, if not already, the entire system will be able to be managed through the SDK as well. So if you want very simple functions, you can just create, like, maybe 3 Postman or something. You can do some of that stuff with it.
Does that SDK come with a Web3 injection, or is that do you need a provider as well?
I don't know. I'm not I'm not the right man for that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I can half answer it. I think that in the previous iteration of attempting to run the portal locally, there was some confusion with having to run, like, parity in the background and have, like, a dummy MetaMask sitting there injected for no reason. But we should probably get some clarity about some kind of emergency procedure if the website goes down. How do you interact with your CDP would be a great document to have.
Yeah. If it's on GitHub, then you should. The server-side backend code, and then people could download that, start up their own web server, and then that's a quick and easy way to do it.
All right, awesome. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on, Chris, about, like, some challenges or some maybe future plans or interesting tweaks or features that people may not be aware of? Or?
No, I think we've covered everything.
Okay.
I touched on it. Was it's a simple version of the DAO dashboard ultimately, which should be easy to explain. And I think there's another blog post coming out quite soon, unrelated to the CDP portal, but I think it's going to have a kind of teaser design for the multi-collateral DAO version of the portal. So yeah, keep an eye out for that if you're keen to see what the multi-collateral version is going to look like.
Okay, and in an unrelated note, Kiva just reminded us that last week Mariano was teasing some new announcements that they're going to make in relation to partnerships in South America. And he mentioned, somewhat dangerously, but I think legally approved, that we are going to, we're about to announce some relationships with exchanges, 8, I think he said, and potentially some on-ramps and off-ramps, but I don't have those specific details. So sorry, Akiva, if we got you up early for this call for specifically that reason, because I cannot provide you with any answers, because the people that have the answers are sitting around a table in a packed convention hall right now, desperately trying to explain to people how MakerDAO works and hand out t-shirts as quickly as they can. So I apologize. We'll get you that information soon, though. I'm reasonably sure that we're still signing things, but I don't want to be too coy about this or making announcements of announcements, but the news is worth waiting for. Something really good is going to happen in a couple of days, which should make a lot of people in South America happy. I hate to do the Justin Sun thing, but there you go. That's the announcement of an announcement. So. Kenny, thanks for showing up. I'm always happy to see you here. It's nice to when an OG shows up, and it's even nicer when they give some tacit approval to the things that we've done recently. So I'm glad that you like the portal.
It's great stuff. It's awesome. Keep it up.
Okay, I think that we're going to wrap it up there. If anybody has any questions they think of after the call, just hit us up on Reddit or in chat, and then we'll continue the conversation there. I am probably not going to be able to post this to YouTube tonight, but I'll try to get to it in the next day or so. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for showing up.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, bye.